Overseas again, another blunt warning today from the Soviet leader to all the Soviet republics. Mr. Gorbachev told a group of young communists that attempts to secede or to redraw internal Soviet borders could lead to civil war and what he called such bloody carnage that we will not be able to crawl out of it. One of the most isolated nations in the world is about to get direct phone service to the U.S. AT&T says it will set up a phone link between Albania and the United States next month. Another small link in a chain that is now tying U.S. business interests to the nations of Eastern Europe. It's not always smooth, but it has enormous potential. ABC's John Donovan has been to see how it's going in Poland.
When Johnson & Johnson shot this commercial in Poland recently, they had the usual problems with babies on the set. They got through it. It just took patience. Patience, also needed by the troops of U.S. businessmen trying to find their way around the new post-communist Poland, and by the Poles, who are showing them their factories, anxious for Americans to put their money into Polish industry. For Americans, the problem is that Poland, after 45 years of communism, is not quite equipped to do business the American way. If Americans buy into Polish factories, for example, current laws will bar them from taking home most of the money they make in Polish currency, and they will have to pay heavy duties on raw materials they bring in. They'll also learn that simple things essential for doing business become complicated, like phone calls. Hello? Warsaw's phone exchange is so outdated that getting a call through can take hours. The nation's banking system is so inefficient that clearing a check can take weeks.
And you have an additional problem is that a lot of people are just not skilled in, so to speak, capitalistic ways.
Of course, some things are shocking to you. Some things are upsetting. But you can see here opportunities which you can't find anywhere else.
By which Poles mean Americans can make money here. This is a market of 39 million people who are short of everything. That potential demand has already attracted about 36 U.S. companies into setting up operations, gambling that as Poland changes, so will the laws limiting what they can do with their profits.
With this size population and the changes that are occurring, Johnson & Johnson feels that Poland offers a tremendous potential for us.
The Marriott Corporation has gone further than most, opening this hotel in Warsaw last October, a multi-million-dollar investment they tried to run as though this were in the middle of an American city, which means the staff from the lobby to the kitchen is learning to work harder than in most East European hotels. Some even sign up for courses that lead to promotion. For the Poles, it is part of an education that Americans are going through too, as business from the West tries to make its mark in the East. John Donovan, ABC News, Warsaw.
Mother Teresa, who works in the slums of Calcutta, inspired a worldwide movement to help the poor and the destitute, has resigned as head of her religious order because of her health. Mother Teresa is 79 now. She had a heart attack and then further complications last year, and she has been confined to her mission in Calcutta ever since. In a moment, the American agenda, when insurance companies ration medical care.
Spring is prime home selling season because there are more buyers in the market, more reasons than ever to put your trust in the Century 21 system. We have access to more buyers through our referral network of 6,000 offices nationwide. The exclusive Action Warranty puts a promise of service in writing. And year in, year out, no one sells more homes. So if you're ready to sell, now's the time to call your local Century 21 office.
Century 21.
Did you know that even though your 800 service is working perfectly, unexpected events can keep you from getting calls?
Hello?
But only AT&T automatically covers you with our 800 assurance policy. Within 1 hour, we can reroute 800 calls to any working phone, even at home. Guaranteed. Reliability, another AT&T advantage. Call today about our special 800 offer.
Chrysler announces the Guaranteed Advantage Sell-a-thon, now with all 3 savings advantages. Get a $1,000 rebate on Dodge Shadow and Spirit, or get $1,000 back on Plymouth Acclaim and Sundance. Plus special option packages and millions in factory-to-dealer incentives on all these family cars. And now, Save over $1,000 on America's best-selling minivans, Plymouth Voyager and Dodge Caravan. Offer ends soon, so hurry. Join us for the biggest sell-a-thon in Chrysler's history.
Just this much Cortaid helps heal more kinds of itches and rashes than all of these. Because Cortaid has a clinically proven healing medicine they don't have. That's why Cortaid is the itch aid.
Coming soon on video cassette, Jack Lemmon, Ted Danson, Olympia Dukakis.
Where's Dad?
I don't know. Probably out pole vaulting.
Sometimes the greatest man you ever meet is the first one. Dad, coming May 10th from MCA Home Video.
Tonight, money and medicine on the American agenda. Today, the Census Bureau put the number of Americans without health insurance at 31.5 million. That is 13% of the population, which cannot afford and often doesn't get the medical attention it needs. Tonight, our focus is on the majority of Americans who do have medical insurance, yet who also often find themselves victims of what amounts to medical rationing. Here's our medical editor, Tim Johnson.
Patricia Sweeney of Omaha was initially treated for breast cancer 3 years ago. But last spring, the cancer returned, and it had spread, so-called metastatic disease. The 5-year survival for this advanced stage of breast cancer is less than 10%. But doctors at the University of Nebraska offered Patricia Sweeney some hope. They were treating metastatic breast cancer patients like these with high-dose chemotherapy combined with bone marrow transplant to replace the marrow damaged by the intense chemo. This is a new technique that is keeping some patients alive longer than otherwise expected. The procedure is risky, about 10% mortality rate, and costly. 1 month intensive care hospitalization plus other care can add up to well over $100,000. Despite the risks and the costs, Patricia's doctors felt she had no other choice.
We recommended bone marrow transplantation. This was the only chance for Patricia's survival.
The problem was how to pay for it. Patricia Sweeney had health insurance through Gerber Products, where she had worked for 18 years. Gerber's insurance company, Prudential, had paid her medical bills to that point, but it refused to pay for the new treatment, calling it experimental.
She couldn't understand why, if this was her only hope at a longer life, that they would deny it. She couldn't understand how they could make that decision regarding her life.
The evidence was very clearly that the medical profession considers this procedure as experimental. The plan at issue was very clear in excluding experimental procedures.
The question is, what makes a medical procedure experimental versus proven? New data on 248 patients from 15 centers around the world shows that 30% of metastatic breast cancer patients that have been treated with chemo plus marrow are alive and free of disease an average of 1.5 to 2 years later. But in cancer treatment, success is usually measured in 5-year survival rates. No wonder many experts are cautious in their interpretation of this early data.
There is evidence that it prolongs survival. What we don't know yet is how curative it will be in the long run.
But debates about which treatments are experimental may be fueled by something more than differences in medical opinion. As healthcare faces a collision course between cost containment and costly medical advances that might save lives, money, not medical opinion, may call the shots. For example, it is estimated that 6,000 American women annually could be recommended for this treatment. At over $100,000 per person, the price tag would total over $600 million a year. But for Patricia Sweeney, the issue was not total cost. The issue was her life. And so last September 15th, she sued Prudential and Gerber seeking payment for her treatment. On December 20th, she entered St. Joseph Hospital in terminal condition. On December 23rd, Patricia Sweeney learned that she had lost her suit. The court had ruled that Prudential had no legal obligation to pay for her treatment. And on December 26th, the day after Christmas, Patricia Sweeney died.
The plan never agreed to fund medical research and experimentation, and to do so, to force it to do so, would have been fundamentally unjust rather than just.
That was her only way to live longer, is that treatment. And now she's dead, and I will never know if she would have had that treatment, if she would have lived a long time.
More and more, it appears that only the rich can afford some kinds of treatment. And unless all of us are willing to pay more taxes or higher premiums, some of us, like Patricia Sweeney, will die. Dr. Timothy Johnson, ABC News.
Back in a moment.
The real test of a power mower is starting it easily on the first pull. That's why Sears is putting 100 Craftsman Eagle One mowers on the line. Look at that, 99 first pull starts out of 100. No wonder there are more Craftsmen on the job than any other brand.
Switch to oat bran? No way. Post bran flakes gives me 2/3 more fiber than the leading oat bran flake, and that keeps the brass in this horn.
Post natural bran flakes, keeping you at your best.
2/3 more fiber.
Each year, millions of people send money with Western Union, and for good reason. We not only invented the business of sending money, we've been perfecting it ever since. So when you send money with us, you can be sure it will get there, usually in 15 minutes or less. Of course, you could try using someone else. You could also go clam digging in a minefield. Western Union. Why even consider anyone else?
Four-wheel drive.
It means that you can drive in every direction at the same time. There's 4 steering wheels for driving.
Anti-lock brakes?
Yes, you can lock them so no one will steal them.
Kids may not understand what Ford Aerostar's new four-wheel drive and standard rear anti-lock brakes are all about. But rest assured, their parents do.
Now get 6.9 financing for up to 48 months or $750 cash bonus on Ford Aerostar.
Tonight on Nightline, the outpouring of feeling for Ryan White, a tribute to one AIDS victim's personal courage. It may also be a symbol of national hypocrisy. Tonight.
Finally here this evening, the innkeeper's own room. One of the great things about radio is that you must use your imagination. Haven't we all spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that person on the radio looks like? Lately, one person has made us particularly curious. You know, the one down at the motel. Here's ABC's Greg Dobbs.
While big companies were paying big bucks to big celebrity names to pop up in their commercials, one company hired a virtual unknown and turned him into a celebrity.
Hi, Tom Bodette from Motel 6 with news that usually only a hairdresser knows for sure.
Tom Bodette's a homespun man from Homer, Alaska. No, that's not him. This is.
Hello, this is Tom Bodette at the end of the road.
Bodette, known nationwide as the voice of Motel 6, has led the chain to the biggest one-year occupancy gain in the history of the hotel-motel industry. As for his image, well, he's hardly the hayseed many make him out to be.
People think I'm old, fat, and ugly. And so one day when I do get old and fat and ugly, I'm not going to disappoint anybody.
The commercials take up only 30, maybe 40 hours of Bodette's year, calls it his night job. The rest of the time, he's a writer of books and commentaries. In fact, an ad man heard one of those commentaries on the radio, and that's how Bodette got hired for Motel 6. Now, counting on his celebrity from the commercials, Bodette's books are going on tape.
Norman didn't have much trouble falling off his dad's fishing boat.
Bodette's ideas come from Homer, his home. It is literally the end of the road in Alaska, as far west as any road goes. Comfortably far for Bodette from what he calls civilization.
My wife, my family, and what I look at and the air I breathe, and those things are more important to me. And so that's why I live here.
There are plenty of things that Tom Bodette doesn't have by living here instead of joining the celebrity circuit in Hollywood or New York. But then there are plenty of things he has here that they don't have in Hollywood or New York. Like wildlife right in the middle of town. Like a coastline prettier than a postcard. Like eagles perched on nearly every elevated point. And while there are plenty of places to stay here, the nearest Motel 6 is about 1,500 miles to the south. But still, if you come this far, you'll find a friend.
We'll leave the light on for you.
Greg Dobbs, ABC News, Homer, Alaska.
That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.